Thank you so much for tuning into my show, William Wallace for America. Today's show is brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Please consider switching your cell phone service to a company that loves America and our Constitution as much as you and I do. They have plans that fit any budget, and they will often give you better service coverage because they use all the carrier lines. Go to patriotmobile.com/WWFA. Today's show was inspired to me by a piece of legislation that I heard about, which brought on a question that I thought was very important. I'm going to give you all my thoughts. That's what this show is about, of course. But I'm also every so often going to bring up some infographics that I saw that make many points that I was saying, with some facts and some different things to think about, different angles to think about some of the things that I would like to talk about. So the question that came to my mind and I'll tell you about the piece of legislation later, is, are you starting to feel the noose around your neck yet? Is the water in the jacuzzi getting hotter, as if they were trying to boil a frog? It's not too late to jump out. While politicians keep waving the Constitution in our face to show how much they support it and point fingers at everyone else that they say is not supporting it, how many of them are really caring about it? Obviously, not many of them when you really look at what they are doing. And for example, one of the latest laws should alarm you. And if it doesn't, then go back to sleep. There is a new piece of legislation that you'll see with the first meme where it says, your car is now a government checkpoint, access denied. Either way, there's a new piece of legislation to have cameras and sensors in all cars starting in 2027. They will monitor drivers and have kill switches. Basically, the monitors and the sensors and the cameras will look at you to determine if you are drunk, sober, maybe you're too worked up to drive, maybe you're excited, road rage, and those monitors will be attached to kill switches. So if the car deems that you're not capable of driving, it's going to render you motionless, killed on the side of the road. And for the people in the way in the back who say, but that's going to keep drunk drivers off the road, I will save the opportunity for later to lecture you on how we should not keep over regulating the large percentage of humanity for the small percentage that doesn't care about freedom in society. And that can be applied across the board. And I will put a bow on that statement, and we'll open that package up later. Yes, there are many things that can be done instead of what is happening, but more and more politicians are reaching over the Constitution to limit the rights of everyone for the few. And the few that are benefiting from all of these freedom robbing laws are those in office and the businesses and self interest groups that control them. Congress has the power of legislation, which is giving it a leg up on our constitutional rights, or should I say, 2 feet up on it as they walk all over it while digging a grave to bury it 6 feet under. Politicians have learned how to circumvent our constitutional rights through legislation and the bureaucratic agencies. And while I'm on that thought, it brings up another meme that I've got that I thought was important, which is one by an X handle labeled the final cut tile. And I think that this thought that he puts out is going to be extremely important for you to think about during this entire podcast. Don't ever let anyone tell you that giving up your freedom for safety is for the greater good. Freedom is the greater good. Pretty soon, with all the new data centers everywhere, controlling us through the cameras that they put everywhere, the monitors that they're putting everywhere for safety, and the greater good, and how we are giving government more access to us, to ourselves through our computers, networks, our cars, even our household appliances, through all of those fancy apps, our electronics, and even our door locks for those that are using the apps to lock and unlock them. Our freedom in the home is going to be the easy part to get through when they are ready to unlock the doors and walk in and take it. I do have a meme here for a data about a data center, which I thought was important. It says breaking. It's a picture of a data center in the middle of a desert area. Breaking. Tech giants are building massive AI data centers that consume millions of gallons of water in western and southern states that are facing severe drought. Pertains to the data centers and how much we are willfully giving up of our own information, but the government isn't giving up any of its information, is a meme that makes this point. Our government is backwards. We are private. The government should know nothing about us. Problem is, dot, dot, dot. Most people are willfully giving the government, not only through surveillance, but through these data centers and all the apps, we're giving them all the information. On with the meme, it says they are public servants, government officials, that is. We should know everything about them, but we don't. And even when we do, they just kind of change it up a little bit, right? So when you say, this is a quote by Edward Snowden, when you say, I don't care about the right to privacy because I have nothing to hide, that's no different than saying, I don't care about freedom of speech because I have nothing to say. Pretty soon, with all the data centers everywhere controlling us through the cameras that they're putting up for safety and the greater good, they are going to have all the control. And for those who say, I don't have anything to hide, you are in the majority and the ones to blame for ushering in a passive majority that is going to willfully hand over access to politicians that have future ideas for legislation to regulate us, and again, will easily walk into our homes in the middle of the night and control us with our own knowledge and information. But I'm not doing anything wrong. Not now, you're not. But wait till new regulations get through and you can't hide from the cameras and speakers in your own home. Don't think for one minute that once government can see and control us more, they won't take every opportunity they can to tax us, fine us, take our money, and control us to pay off the debt that they ran up. It will be taxes on the little things that you don't think of as possible to tax. That they will say they will tax us on things that we used to joke about on how crazy it sounded, like how much water you use. I know they tax us on that now, but when the AI data centers need it more, just wait till our use limits get lowered or taxed more for how much we use. Or just wait till they start taxing us on energy usage. Right, they do that now. But what's going to happen when the AI data centers need them more? Oh, I know. They see it now in order to bill us, but just like they passed a law that is going to control whether you can drive your car or not, don't think that the home regulations aren't coming once they tie all of your apps into the same system for the greater good and figure out they can control what you do in your own home through safety laws and how they can tax you based on how controllable it is. Now, look, don't get me wrong on this. I'm not against AI data centers and I'm not against technology. But what I am preaching is that when you tie government regulations, the politicians creating those legislations through our addiction to technology and getting on all the apps and willfully submitting all of our information. And we're doing it without boundaries. And we're finding now that politicians are not protecting our constitutional rights by using any boundaries. We're going to find that freedom is going to be something that we lose not only quickly, but possibly forever. So, all I'm saying here in this episode and with these thoughts is that everybody needs to wake up, be more aware, and get more involved and expect our politicians to do more to protect our rights. Again, that's one of those rabbit holes we'll go down later. Now, I get it. If you're not doing anything wrong, so it's all okay, right? But what about the crazy laws we hear about that they come up with all the time that control our lives that aren't criminal, but once they know you are doing them, could be at the very least just fined, little small fines, so they can get more money out of us. Like, are you keeping your house's AC too cool? Maybe you decided to remove some home safety features on an appliance. Maybe you chose to paint your home and there is a fume charge. Don't put anything past a government that needs money and has all the control and can prove it with cameras and recordings. While I could go on forever, don't think they won't figure out how to get more money or freedom the more they see you and surveil you. Just like that surveillance they're going to do in your car with cameras. Don't think that that's not going to be a blueprint to force their way into your homes, our homes, and control not only our freedoms, but again, find more ways to tax us. Even better yet, wait till they try to go to all digital currency. And you can watch, or they'll watch what you're buying. They can stop your money, charge you a service fee every time, stop you from traveling. Another package that I'll unwrap later. How digital currency will end any freedom we have from government. Digital currency will be the end of any freedom that we have. When they can control the money, they will never have to listen to us. They will tax us what they want and when they want. They'll turn off our money when we don't listen, or they'll take it when they decide we didn't stay in line. Many businesses and government offices are now cashless, but they charge a service fee for using a credit card. Another tax. Look at what is happening in China. But, William, that's not us. We're not China. This is America. Correct. China created those laws from a strong-armed communist dictator. America is doing it through passive, uninvolved people, narratives, legislations, bureaucracy, illegal immigration, election fraud, and the circumvention of our Constitution for the enrichment of politicians and those that support them. And it is happening because we are complacent and government has bills to pay. And they have figured out how to make us feel like we are electing them, and they are giving us just enough to feel like they care about us. As long as we are complying and paying the taxes, they're going to take it from us softly. But we can vote them out, right? Maybe now, if we start waking up more people to vote, maybe, but it's getting harder as they figure out how to redistrict and work around election laws. But soon, once everything becomes digital, they won't need us for voting. They're already proving that. But it must be the Democrats doing this, right? No, it's Republicans too voting for this stuff or not doing anything to stop it, which brings me to yet another meme that I've got to pull up here. By Mila Joy on X, she points out Elizabeth Warren won her seat by 676,228 votes. Massachusetts had 744,880 duplicate registrations. Times two, that's a lot more than 676,000 votes. Election fraud? No, can't be. We don't have that, right? Please. We're seeing it more and more. Forget about whether you think the 2020 election was stolen or not. Since then, we have been hearing about all of the ballots showing up, all of the illegal registrations showing up, all of the surprise dead people on the voter rolls. This is why we cannot give up on the Save America Act. The myth, if you want, is the next meme by United States Term Limits. It says, the myth, if you want incumbents voted out or out, just vote them out. The reality is incumbents hold a 90% reelection rate, even though the approval rate for Congress is at all-time lows. It's fueled by 10-to-1 fundraising lead, name recognition, and taxpayer-funded perks. I'd like to point out those facts about why incumbents get elected are magnified by things like ballot harvesting, election fraud, and they are super multiplied, if that's such a term, by the lack of voter participation, by low voter turnouts. When you've got off-ballot elections or even, midterm elections, you might get 50% of registered voters turning out. That is one of the best ways to get incumbents reelected is through low voter turnout. My next meme, I'm going to have it up, but we'll read it in a few minutes because it has to do with our debt. They don't want us to be free thinking, making our own decisions. They want us to be part of the gears in a machine. People are more and more willfully ignoring government while it is growing at a faster rate than ever before. And I believe in DC, or the people in DC, they see the debt growing more and more. They see that government's growing at a faster rate. They see the debt rising, and they see the cliff coming fast. And they realize the only way to avoid the backlash from the masses is to take control of them and their freedoms now. I know I'm sounding all 1984-ish, but the regulations now are soft and well-intentioned, right? Or at least the narratives wrapped around the regulations are soft and seem well-intentioned to help us to swallow it a little bit easier. And government takes care of so many people through the programs, agencies, bureaucracy, and system that we don't feel the heavy hand because of the softness of the good intentions. But I do want to talk about our national debt for just a second with this meme that I've got up here. And it's by the Convention of States. Over the past 6 months, in other words, we've spent roughly $70 billion more on debt interest than on national defense. Our national debt is killing us. It's a message that bears repeating until lawmakers finally take action to steer our ship of state, rather, away from the iceberg. Not going to happen. This is bigger than politics. $39 trillion in debt threatens the survival of our nation. A time for action is now. Sign the Convention of States petition and take a stand. I did not read this meme as a promo for Convention of States, but I do support what they are doing because it's going to be the only way or one of the ways to coerce politicians to do the right thing. Our debt is growing. It's growing bigger and faster than ever. And politicians, I believe, see the cliff coming, but they are finding it easier to regulate us more, tax us more, control us more, so that way they don't have to face us when we reach that fiscal cliff. They'll have control then. What can we do? Vote, because they watch who's paying attention. I hear many people, my vote doesn't matter. My vote doesn't, they rob and steal the votes anyway. Well, guess what? Even if they are stealing elections, even if they're complete fraudulent, they know who's voting, they know the real totals, and they watch and they pay attention on how many people are participating in voting. Voting may be getting manipulated through redistricting. It may be getting rigged through ballot harvesting. It may be getting stolen with mail-in ballots, robbed by the dead voters on the voting machines, or harvested through illegal immigration. But at the very least, we need to treat voting like an opinion poll, because don't think that politicians aren't aware of the actual results. Make your opinion heard. Don't think of it as if your vote doesn't matter. Think of it like it's a survey, and register for the survey so you can at least have your opinion heard. They know the real results, and they know how many people are showing up to vote. And when 95% of voters on the rolls actually end up turning out instead of the 10 to 50% we get now, they will know and they will be paying attention at that point. And when more people register to vote and turn out, they will know that also. They will be able to match populations with voters and with voter turnout. And they will know more people are caring and turning out, and they will start to realize what they cannot get away with anymore. We've reached a tipping point. And I'll be simple on the national debt for a second. It has grown more in the last 16 years than in the previous 100 years. Regulations are on the rise. Surveillance is on the rise. Government is pushing for more control. Politicians are listening less and ignoring us more. And the proof is in their votes. More and more recently, it's not a coincidence that they're voting for more regulations, looking at us through surveillance more, while the national debt's growing more. And because I brought up illegal immigration a minute ago, I wanted to bring up this meme on illegal immigration to make my point again. Shows Tom Homan and Mayorkas. It says Tom Homan is demanding treason charges against Biden's DHS Secretary, Alexandro Mayorkas, for deliberately opening the southern border. Mayorkas didn't fail. He succeeded in flooding America with millions of illegal immigrants, including criminals and national security threats. Personally, I think it's on purpose, because they're able to flood our voting rolls and create a smoke and mirrors, if you will, because of the immigration process that not only distracts us from what's going on, but it helps to cover up what's happening. They need more government to prop up the government and all its programs, pay the interest on the debt, and to satisfy all the businesses and people dependent on the government system. Government is intertwining legislation, regulations, and technology to control our freedoms because that is how they will get our money out of us instead of at the ballot box because they know we won't willfully vote for it. Take a deep breath while I give you this next one. They figured it out while putting back, they figured this out a while back, actually, by putting tax increases on election days that didn't have a big ballot, didn't have big offices on the ballot. So they knew people wouldn't show up on a Saturday. Now they are figuring out how to do it with regulations, gerrymandering, and calling it redistricting to justify the maps, technology, and covering up again with the illegal immigration and using the courts to justify all of it when we know that public opinion based on the narratives have made public opinion way heavier than blind justice. And that, I guess, and that is what I'm saying, has empowered our courts to use more lawfare than justice. If I'm wrong, my attorneys out there, please correct me. Just look at what's happening. So when you think I'm not doing anything wrong, you can ask yourself, why is there now a violation of the Fourth Amendment with kill switches in cars, using cameras and monitors? Like I said earlier, Republicans and Democrats voted to put the cameras on you and kill switches in your car. And you'll say, what if I'm not drunk and I just went out for a run in the park and I get back in, I'm out of breath, my face is beat red, and the car is disabled because the sensors think I'm not, capable of driving? Or what if a female is trying to get out of a parking lot and away from a man who is following her and she has fear on her face and she can't start the car because of the fear on her face and she gets carjacked? Don't think they won't try to do this to your home after you get comfortable with the control they have over you in your car. And don't think the day won't come when they push for driverless cars and humans aren't allowed to drive. Sounds crazy, but so does half the laws we hear about. It would be for the greater good, right? By taking away human error and giving all control to the grid controlled by the government, right? Think about this. Remember COVID craziness? When the government was putting out all kinds of crazy regulations on you can't eat indoors, but they can create a room outside where you can still eat inside the room as long as it's outside. It's no different than the smoking laws. There's a smoking section over there in the same restaurant. Over there, it's non-smoking, but it's craziness. So now, as the meme I'm reading from MW4 Liberty says, so remember the COVID craziness? Now imagine it, but the government has the power to disable your car. Yeah, Republicans voted right alongside with Democrats to make that possible in the future. Thomas Massie has introduced legislation. This is the next meme picture of Thomas Massie. He's introduced legislation mandating warrants for AI-driven government surveillance, targeting legal loopholes, and restoring Fourth Amendment rights in the digital age. This is something I was referring to earlier when I said that what we need more of in this digital age, if we're going to use it in our lives, we need more elected officials that are going to vote on freedom, going to vote for the protection of liberty, instead of tying more government regulation through bureaucratic agencies and legislation wrapped up with what good intentions, they will fit individual freedom and liberty in there and protect it in some way, shape, or form. So I'm not telling you get off the grid complete. Well, I am kind of, but run away from it all. Let's face it. We all have cell phones that we carry around all day long. That's like saying going back to the rotary phone or beepers, but or 911. But if we demand our elected officials watch out for us through those same elections that we need to start showing up for more, we have a chance at navigating this grid. My next meme off of X. Every new car in the US will be required by law to have tech that puts constant surveillance on the driver by 2027. All in your car, AI, AI in your car will determine if you're sober and fit to drive, automatically turning off the vehicle if it determines you're in danger on the road. Rand Paul brought up our Fourth Amendment rights on this. He says in this next meme, if the government wants to read your emails, it should have to convince a judge first. That's what the Fourth Amendment requires. That's my Fourth Amendment Restoration and Protection Act restores. No warrant, no search. Rand Paul. As I was saying, we need more elected officials that are going to see not only where the flaws are, but wind our constitutional rights into any type of legislation that uses technology that could be used to control us. And like I was telling you about the driverless cars, don't think that won't happen or can't happen. And furthermore, don't think that the Democrats aren't pushing for more violence so they can get more regulations on gun rights or our rights in public, especially if they get back in power. And Republicans have not stood firm enough. They have capitulated too many times. And if it were not for the pro Second Amendment Democrats, which there are, we would have lost our gun rights a long time ago. And don't think that Democrats aren't pushing for more hate speech and supporting and funding the perpetuation of it and the narratives to amplify it so they can use the violence and hatred from it to push for control over our First Amendment rights. Just look at how they manipulated the Southern Poverty Law Center to help fund hate speech so they would have a purpose and a reason to find power, which brings me to my next meme as proof and example. Picture of Hakeem Jeffries. This is Democrat Hakeem Jeffries 4 days before a Democrat assassin tried to kill the entire Trump administration. Hakeem is the leader for all the Democrats in the House of Representatives. And he says his message to Democrats was on the poster that he created maximum warfare everywhere, all the time. The list of examples by the Democrats goes on and on. I saw a video just the other day that shows that 10 or 12 Democrats talking about violence, protests that end in violence, using force, using I want to say not just force, but and not just using violence, but they were advocating for it. They were promoting it in a way to get it. I believe that when it comes to our Second Amendment rights and our First Amendment rights and violence in the streets that they want, and the of course, like I said, using our First Amendment rights against us, they're going to use all of that against us if they get back in power and take control to put more regulations on all of it. I got a little meme up here. It says, "Never forget this," by the Salty Goat. All of these people were shot by a Democrat. Abraham Lincoln, John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, and Charlie Kirk. And of course, remember now, Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan both had attempts on their lives at the same hotel. Not that that's a strange coincidence, it just happens to be a coincidence. And my other meme, a picture of Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi by a handle on X called Gain of Fauci, says, "Just in, party that started the KKK, shockingly still funding the KKK." Families have also taken a huge hit when bureaucracy decided their father could not be in the home to get public assistance. And government knows that family is parallel to freedom. Strong families and strong freedoms create prosperity, independence, and help reduce the need for government. And families help communities prosper. And I have a meme from Connor Boyack of Tuttle Twins that makes a great point on this. It says, "We won't save our country at the Capitol or in the courtroom. If it's to be saved, it'll be at the family dinner table, modeling critical thinking, discussing events, building culture, sharing values." I meant to bring this up earlier. It's another one on elections. We might be mentioning elections again in a minute, but it's a picture of Ocasio-Cortez where she says Republicans are trying to rig elections by only allowing U.S. citizens to vote, says Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I wanted to bring this one up earlier when I was talking about the hate speech, because not only are they using hate speech or inciting violence and hate speech to be used against us, they are also creating and fabricating lies that they keep perpetuating out there. So one day those lies would be taken as truths and used against us for the same reasons to violate and regulate and control our First Amendment rights. The attack on Christianity started when the anti-Christian left interpreted the First Amendment to say separation of church and state. They interpreted that to be able to remove morality from government and schools. But it's not in the US Constitution. And the US Constitution does not explicitly state that. But the US Constitution does say, or it establishes rather, the principle through the Establishment Clause that we have a right on our First Amendment, but a right to religion, and the Free Exercise Clause, the right to exercise that religion. That's what was in the First Amendment. But we all know the First Amendment is succinctly free speech and worship. But they got separation in church and state, the anti-Christians, that is. They got this separation of church and state from a quote by Thomas Jefferson in a letter from 1802 to the Danbury Baptist Association. It says in the letter that the government should not interfere with religious practices, thereby creating a wall of separation between church and state. The Supreme Court has cited Jefferson's metaphor to interpret the First Amendment in the 1947 case Everson versus Board of Education. So they extended it to schools. That is how they got separation of church and state. But I contend, just like the takings clause in the Fifth Amendment was, I believe, misinterpreted or taken out of the Fifth Amendment, misinterpreted from the Fifth Amendment. I'll just leave it as simple as that. They got this clause the same way Any attack on freedom or morality would never have been in the Constitution. They would not they would not have anything that's anti-freedom or morality in the Constitution. That's a better way to say it. At no time was it ever thought that the moral structure of Christianity should be kept out of government until the anti-Christian movement figured out that by destroying faith, family, and freedom, you can grow government. By doing those things, you can control people, enrich others that believe in the same when you take morality and Christianity out of government and out of the schools. And the misinterpretation, I believe, the misinterpretation of the um, separation of church and state statement came from Thomas Jefferson, not out of the Constitution. If we had morality in government and schools, we would not have half the problems we have today. Hence the reason the anti-Christian left fights so hard to keep it out. As a result of some of this that's happening, Gentry Jeever states in this next meme that I wanted to bring out, I think is important, going backwards a little bit and going forwards from here. People blame billionaires for what politicians did. People blame capitalism for what central banking did, i.e., politicians. People blame free markets for what bailouts did, i.e., politicians. People blame greed for what regulation did, done by politicians. See that little slip there? Both of them. And lastly, on this meme, it says people blame profit for what redistribution did, again, by politicians. Politicians are refusing to vote on basic election laws that will safeguard our elections and the people's vote or opinion, because they know people are sick and tired of the same old, and they want our elections made safer and more secure and protected from the recent attacks on election integrity. My point to prove that, Congress has a slush fund in Congress to cover up their improprieties with our tax dollars. And Democrats and Republicans voted overwhelmingly to not make the list public of who was committing those improprieties. And let's not forget about how rich they are getting while they're serving in Congress. We know it and we see the insider trading, but we can't do anything about it because the ones who are responsible for taking action on it are either in on it or they know that to chip away at the system threatens their own job. Or the politicians get away with it by saying things like, I don't control my money, my financial planner does. Or, oops, my accountant made a $30 million mistake and I'm really in debt. I am sure there's going to be a taxpayer funded bailout to help all the broke politicians that made accounting errors. It's why they are starting to make laws making it illegal to expose corruption like they are doing in California. Or they simply make the people exposing corruption to be the hateful ones, like they are doing to Nick Shirley, who exposed all the corruption in Minnesota. And let's take a deeper dive for later, is how they are taxing us without our direct permission. I'm going to repeat that again a little differently. Another deeper dive that we're going to take another time in another episode is how they're taxing us without our direct permission. They do it through those, I'm going to repeat again, like I said earlier, they do it through those off-ballot, low turnout elections. Millages that get passed on those ballots are controlled by assessors or taxing districts like libraries that often keep taking the money even when they have huge surpluses because they know if they don't take it, they lose it, right? They are earning money on money that we could be using or earning money on or paying taxes with. And how about the taxes on our homes that are controlled by the assessors that we elect once? That one person gets to value our homes as they see fit using millages that got in those, got passed in those low turnout elections to factor how much we owe based on what they value our home to be. Usually, it's that one person that gets to decide how much we have to pay on money that was not earned, that was not, it was, you can consider it investment, but it wasn't earned. It's basically phantom money that we got to pay taxes on. And then if you factor in the inflation factor, which is mostly caused by elected officials who are creating fiscal policies that often reflect the support of government instead of capitalism, our taxes become even more inflated and burdensome without our control or our ability to manage it like we would our own finances if we were in control. In Louisiana, they just gave eminent domain rights to businesses, a right once deserved for government. And I think through the takings clause is how they got that out of the Fifth Amendment is a false interpretation. I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. The takings clause, the wording is not even in the Fifth Amendment, but somehow or another they get the right. You have the right to not incriminate yourself so that you cannot lose your fortune or your fortune won't be taken by government as a way to validate them using eminent domain. Just like the separation of church and state was misinterpreted, they say it long enough and refer to the Constitution enough that people think it's in there. But think, just the anti freedom wording alone of it does not fit in the Constitution. And I'm going to give you an example on something on eminent domain here with this next meme by Ayn Rand from the Atlas Society. If they believe that they may seize my property simply because they need it, well, so does any burglar. There is only the difference. The burglar does not ask me to sanction his act, i.e., the government and politicians declare they need your land, they need your property. They use this phantom clause that they got out of something out of the Constitution as their right to do it, and they take it. And you pay the taxes on it or don't benefit from it. Thomas Sowell said in this next meme, the government is not a neutral arbiter, but a political institution itself, subject to pressures from special interest groups who have their own agendas, which is how a lot of this unconstitutional stuff ends up happening in our daily lives. And of course, don't forget Congress literally agreed to fund kill switches in your car. I'm not saying that all politicians are corrupt. I contend that individually, many of our elected officials are trying to do the right thing. Many are good people. Don't get me wrong. Most Democrats do stupid things. I don't think they do those stupid things out of, I, I think they do those things out of desperation for power or from fighting from a position with an unpopular idea. And some of them are well intentioned. Many of them aren't. Many of them get that thirst for power. And so, because they realize that they're bargaining from an unpopular position, they do stupid things. And while most Republicans believe and say many of the right things, and have good solutions that sync with most Americans and have a good foundation of conservative freedom, American style loving values, Republicans often don't do enough to stop bad ideas because they fear losing an election because of some popular contradictory narratives, or simply because Republicans raise more money running on the problems than by actually fixing them. But the real problem is that when they all start working together as a party, or they start working together for the bigger picture, with other elected officials and bureaucrats in the government, then they start thinking with herd mentality. So they lose their passion for freedom, liberty, and the rights and prosperity of the individual. And they focus on the greater good for them and the government instead of for the people. And when those lone politicians that are out there that want to leave the herd to speak out against the improprieties of the herd, they get called the crazies and they lose the chance to grow in leadership. And then it just depends on the deal or the line item of money for their districts or their stock tip that sucks them back into the herd. And there are more and more elected officials that are trying to leave the herd than we realize. But again, we end up seeing DC and the herd mentality instead of the individual. So I'm tired of the finger pointing at certain elected officials. I get sick and tired of it because then when people do that, the focus becomes on that person or that group or the bad ones instead of taking responsibility, getting involved, and voting to help get them out. They are the ones responsible for the problems, the ones who just point fingers at the AKA the man behind the tree instead of pointing at the collective group and calling on our entire Congress to do better. Take TDS, Trump derangement system, or Trump derangement syndrome, for instance. It becomes a reason for many on the left to ignore good policies or work against things that could be good. And then the fight gets elevated because Trump then works harder to fight against those people, and the battle becomes inflamed and grows, and nothing gets done, or worse gets done. That example can be used on many elected officials and groups that we could easily find better, calmer, and professional solutions with if we simply didn't allow ourselves to be separated as much without giving up our personal beliefs. There is simply not enough time in one podcast to cover it all, but I will take many more deep dives in the future to make more time to talk about solutions. But I'm going to leave you with a couple thoughts. Two thoughts. One, register to vote like you register for all the contests, rewards, points, and free stuff. And vote like it is an opinion poll to win a coupon, discount, or other prize, because your prize is going to be your freedom and prosperity. And when you win it, you will see what you have been missing and losing. And two, evil needs disorganization and uses weak people to create it. A disorganized society of people is the support structure that harbors a government that is not for the people. And a disorganized society of weak people nourishes poverty, pain, injustice, and societal decay. And government becomes the master. My last meme to leave you on is 7 things to tell God every morning. And I do this because we need more faith and more morality in not only our lives, but in our government. And when we choose it in our lives, We're going to expect it in our government. Thank God for giving us a new day. Thank God. Please guide my thoughts and my words. Help me to love others as you do. Protect my family and my home. Grant me peace in the midst of chaos. Remind me you are still in control. I surrender everything to you. If this is your prayer, please put it out, share it. And I shared it with you because it reflects not only the morality that we need, but some of the things that the lack of morality and the legislation that they're trying to put through, how it affects us. Thank you again so much. I'd be honored and grateful if you told somebody about my podcast and shared it with them. Go on some of my social media pages, like and follow me on X at Wallace for America. Follow me and like and subscribe on William Wallace for America on Facebook. And of course, like and subscribe my podcast, and please share it with others. Thank you again so much. Have a great night. I look forward to talking to you again soon. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.